look at this scale, almost doubling. Letters kind of just leaving a little bit more to be desired. Let's put it that way. Wow. Put that on a pamphlet and ship it, because everyone wants to come work at Amazon right now. Be like, what? I mean, I know the guy proofreads this letter. Big topic is that Jeff Bezos is officially leaving Amazon, and he's written his last annual letter. In every annual letter, he also includes his original letter from 1997, and that's all the way at the bottom of the letter. There's a couple interesting things in this letter that I wanted to dig into. He includes a letter that someone else, an early shareholder had written to him, thanking him for all the value he's created. I think that's one of the big points of emphasis. There's kind of maybe 3 points of emphasis. One of the big ones is, here is the value that Amazon is creating. And he says, if you're a company and you're not creating value for your constituents, well, then you're not going to be around for long. And so he goes on to break down how he thinks about that value, right? Create more than you consume is how he kind of titles the section. There's a couple bits in here that I think would be interesting to go deeper into. So he says, yeah, for shareholders, we made $21 billion in net income in 2020. For employees, we paid out $91 billion. So, we paid them that kind of compensation. He does come back to the employee concept and says they have a lot more work to do on that front. We're going to get to that in a second. Then he talks about third-party sellers. We have an internal team, and they estimate that in 2020, third-party seller profits from selling on Amazon were between 25 and 39 billion. And to be conservative, he says, I'll just assume 25 billion, and then he adds up all these things later on in the letter. So let's just double click on that piece of it, right? $25 billion. He says that is third-party seller profits from selling on Amazon. I don't know. Does that mean their net income, or does that mean gross margin? Not clear. This is literally all he says about it to reference it. But there is some other information. There's a really good market kind of 2020 year in review marketplace report from Marketplace Pulse. We love this site. And one of the things they do is they break down the estimated share of Amazon GMV by third-party sellers. So in Bezos's letter 2 years ago, 2019, looking back at 2018, he said that there is a 56-44 split, right? Third-party sellers accounted for 56% of the GMV on Amazon globally. This site estimates it's slightly above 60%, call it 61, 62%. In 2020. They also estimate that third-party sellers accounted for $295 billion in 2020, right? So let's go back to that $25 to $39 billion number. If you're doing it off of $300 billion, basically what he's getting at is that they're making about 10% profit off of what they sell on Amazon, right? They being the third-party sellers. It's kind of hard to figure out what they actually mean by that number. I can tell you this much. If you look at the net profit margin, net income margin from third-party sellers and distributors that I know very well, it is way less than 10%, right? You're talking maybe 3% net income margin. So I think the $25 to $39 billion, maybe if that's talking about gross margin, that would be more accurate. But if it's talking about net profit margin, definitely not accurate. When you just look at all the costs that it takes to really run this business net. Gross margin is probably what he's referring to, which is a very different story, frankly. So he says, yes, we create $25 to $39 billion in value for our third-party sellers. So he talks about this union case, which is in Bessemer. So does your chair, that's him, refers to himself as your chair. Does your chair take comfort in the outcome of the recent union vote in Bessemer? No, he doesn't. I think we need to do a better job for our employees. While the voting results were lopsided and our direct relationship with employees is strong, it's clear to me that we need a better vision for how we create value for employees, a vision for their success. So if you're not really sure what that means, when he says the voting results were lopsided, that's in the affirmative, right? So they actually voted to not go through with a union. Here is what happened here. This is in Bessemer, Alabama, just in the past few weeks here. And just over half of the 5,800 eligible workers cast valid ballots. So 738 voted to unionize, and more than twice that number, about 1,800 voted against unionization. When Jeff is saying the vote was lopsided, it was lopsided to not go through with unionizing, right? This is one of their warehouses and distribution centers here in Alabama. I mean, if the vote had gone through, they would have closed down the distribution center. They wouldn't have allowed it to unionize. Same thing Walmart does. Same thing, a lot of these companies do. Instacart did it, where they had a store unionize and they shut down the whole operations at one or two stores to just root out the union altogether and not allow it to persist. So he subtly, recognizes here that it was lopsided in Amazon's direction to not unionize. So he talks about employee value, talks about third-party seller value very vaguely, and I would say is overinflating the numbers. Either he's talking about gross margin, but he's calling it profit, or he's talking about the seller's gross profit and it's highly inflated. I'm going to assume it's the former. It's the gross margin, which from a gross margin standpoint, it's not that much gross margin. Many distributors have between, call it 20 to 25% cost. And so if they've got no more than 30% margin, right? And if they've got 25% cost after COGS are taken out, then they've got a few points of gross profit left over. So if you're talking about 25% gross margin versus, let's say, 10% gross margin, there is value to third-party sellers, but I don't know, it's just calculated very weird. And I'm not really sure the point he's trying to get across on that front. He kind of skates real lightly across the value to third-party sellers, even though they compete so much with third-party sellers. And we've talked about that myriad of times on the show. Anyway, the last one bit went in his calculation, which I thought was pretty interesting here, is how he calculates the value for the customers. Customers complete 28% of Amazon purchases in 3 minutes or less, and half of all purchases are finished in less than 15 minutes. Compare that to the typical shopping trip to a physical store. Research suggests that the typical physical store trip takes about an hour. You assume that a typical Amazon purchase takes 15 minutes, and it saves you a couple trips to a physical store a week. That's more than 75 hours a year saved. That's important. What? Amazon's the only place you can buy stuff online from? His comparison is not against Walmart, or eBay or Etsy or Macy's or Farfetch, or his comparison is against the physical store, and that's what he is running his cost value analysis against. It just seems really dated, this example. I don't know. I mean, I don't want to bash the guy because he's brilliant and he's literally the richest guy in the world. Well, it oscillates between him and Elon. It depends on where the share price falls. But let's just say he's the richest guy in the world. The guy has built an amazing business, the monopoly of all monopolies, and that's to his credit. But I don't know, this letter, for the last letter, the letter is not, no, letter's kind of just leaving a little bit more to be desired. Let's put it that way. So this is a weird analogy on the customer value. The numbers are wonky on the third-party seller value. And then the employee stuff just goes down a pretty crazy rabbit hole. So he talks about all the good things they do for employees. This one did not get some good press. Employees are able to take informal breaks throughout their shifts to stretch, get water, use the restroom, or talk to a manager. That is what makes Amazon's work environment so good. All without, you can do all of those things. And guess what? It doesn't impact their performance. These informal work breaks are in addition to, wait for it, the 30-minute lunch break they get and the 30-minute break and another 30-minute flex break they get. Wow. Put that on a pamphlet and ship it, because everyone wants to come work at Amazon right now. Be like, what? I mean, I know the guy proofreads this letter, but when you're proofreading and you say, yeah, I don't know how this one's going to play. That question should have come up on this one. It's like the details. I don't understand what these details are really helping his story, right? So anyway, what he does say is that they do have a lot left to be desired on the employees, and in his upcoming role as executive chair, he's going to focus his inventor spirit on, new initiatives to help out employees, and that they are now making it a goal to be Earth's best employer and Earth's safest place to work. So, that's one of the big takeaways there. And then he talks about climate, and then boom, 1997 letter. But let's just, these numbers are big, right? I mean, I want to come back to these for a second. Look at this. When he actually disclosed that split 56-44 back for the 2018 numbers, there's 160 billion in third-party seller volume. That's up to 295, right? Look at this scale, almost doubling in 2 years. Now, he's got the COVID bump in here, which helped out a lot, but still, I mean, even before that, they had a 25% estimated, this is estimated, 25% year-over-year growth in the third-party sales volume. It's massive. It's massive. The other thing, which also kind of comes out around the same time of this, is that on April 8th, Amazon removed the customer details from the last report. So you can see here just this general trend that, when platforms get to monopoly scale, who do they take advantage of? It's not the consumer, it's the producer, it's the third-party sellers, right? They just are, they're bragging like a 10 to 13% gross margin is really good. Look at all the value we're creating for you, third-party sellers. Like, look at how much meat is still on that bone. Let me tell you, that's not a meaty bone, okay? Those are razor-thin margins, because if that is gross margin, there's still overhead if you're a third-party seller, right? You still have a lot of other overhead just to operate your business, right? So it's insanely thin in terms of what that net profit margin, that net income margin is for these third-party sellers. And then they just keep, taking a pound of flesh. Okay, yeah, we were going to give you customer information. Great. Yeah, no, not anymore. And you just can't do anything. The only way they're able to do this is because they have so much power and they have such strong scale. Hi, I'm Alex. Thanks for watching the show. Make sure to hit that subscribe button, but even better, make sure to follow us on Odyssey, follow us on Rumble, and text us 203-646-5159. Text the word Monopoly. You'll be subscribed. You'll get updates about when we're going live, our latest videos, and we'll send you even a little goodie bag. And in the event that we all get banned from big tech, we'll still be connected.